The obsidian walls of the Grand Conclave chamber absorbed the flickering luminescence of the projection, casting long, distorted shadows across the tiered platforms where the high delegates of the federated systems sat. A low, resonant hum, usually a comforting ambient presence, now vibrated with a palpable tension, a static charge in the very air. Before them, suspended in the central void, was not a star chart, nor a tactical deployment, but a single isolated quadrant of space, rendered in stark, unsettling detail. It pulsed with a faint, almost imperceptible energy signature, a ghostly presence against the cosmic backdrop. Delegate Xylos, his crystalline carapace shimmering with nervous energy, extended a slender digit towards the projection. His voice, usually a melodic cascade of nuanced inflections, was now a strained rasp. "It is impossible. The calculations defy established cosmological constants. The energy output required for such an endeavor, it surpasses all known theoretical limits for a species of their developmental stage." A collective shiver rippled through the assembled representatives, a silent acknowledgement of the terrifying implication. The sector displayed was precisely where the Solarian Commonwealth, the species known as humanity, had been exiled, banned, purged from the common galactic forum for transgressions deemed intolerable, for actions interpreted as profoundly destabilizing. Elder Delegate HFY, her ancient, multifaceted eyes reflecting the chilling light of the projection, shifted her massive frame on her gravitational cushion. Her species, the Chronosians, had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, their wisdom forged in the crucible of eons. The Solarian Commonwealth was deemed an anomaly, Xylos, unpredictable, volatile. Their very existence threatened the delicate balance we had so painstakingly cultivated for millennia, their inherent drive. It was deemed fundamentally incompatible with the principles of harmonious galactic coexistence. We imposed the Great Interdiction with unanimous consent, a measure of last resort to preserve the peace. Her voice, a slow, deep reverberation, carried the weight of historical consequence, a memory of a time when the very fabric of the federated systems had quivered with apprehension. "And yet," Xylos countered, his voice gaining a desperate edge, "this anomaly has now manifested in a manner entirely unforeseen. The energy signature, the sheer scale of the spatial alteration, it is not merely a contained region. It is a contained region, yes, but one of such incomprehensible density and structural integrity that it registers as a new, nascent cosmological phenomenon. We banish them to an empty void, Elder, a periphery devoid of resource and strategic value. A region designated for galactic waste, for the dissolution of dying stars. We believed we had contained the threat, rendered it irrelevant." He gestured wildly at the projection, his frustration a palpable force. "They were banned from the galaxy, HFY. They were forbidden to participate in any form of interspecies interaction, their systems isolated, their communications monitored for any deviation. We cut them off entirely. And now, this." The High Delegate of the Cathar, a creature of sinuous grace and predatory intellect, uncoiled slightly from its meditative posture. Its vocalization, a series of precise clicks and sibilant whispers, cut through the rising murmur. The initial assessment indicated a localized energy spike, a contained anomaly within their designated sector. Our long-range surveillance drones, deployed discreetly, confirmed the presence of extensive construction. But the scale of what is now being detected transcends mere construction. It is a spatial distortion, a manipulation of reality itself. Are we certain of the data integrity? A younger technical delegate, a nervous member of the Synthesian collective, whose metallic skin shimmered with embedded data streams, projected a series of complex equations and sensor readings onto a secondary display. "The data is irrefutable, High Delegate. Multiple independent verification arrays confirm the readings. The gravitational lensing, the temporal displacement, the energy signatures, they correlate with a structure of unprecedented scale. Not merely a star system, nor even a nebula, but a self-contained, artificially maintained celestial body. It is growing, expanding, and it generates its own unique spatial metric." The Synthesian's internal processors whirred audibly, a sound of profound distress. "The designation new cosmological phenomenon is not hyperbole. It is the only descriptor that encompasses the observed reality. They have taken the void we gave them and filled it with something entirely new." HFY closed her faceted eyes, a deep sigh escaping her ancient form. The interdiction of Sol, now almost 3 cycles past, had been a deeply divisive issue, even NGSD, the unified federated systems. The humans, in their brief, turbulent ascension into the galactic stage, had proven to be a perplexing paradox. Their technological advancements were rapid, almost unnervingly so. Their capacity for empathy and compassion was profound, yet their history was marred by what the federated systems considered inexplicable internal conflicts, periods of devastating self-annihilation. Their diplomacy was often direct, bordering on blunt, their logic sometimes guided by an emotional calculus that baffled the more ancient, stoic species. They had been accused of destabilizing nascent trade routes through their aggressive expansion, of violating ecological sanctity in their fervent desire for resources, of even, in one particularly contentious incident, interfering with the internal politics of a pre-FTL civilization, ostensibly to prevent a species-wide conflict. The federated systems, built on principles of non-interference, measured growth, and cautious expansion, had seen them as an uncontainable variable, a chaotic element threatening the delicate stability of galactic order. The decision to interdict them had not been taken lightly, but with a grim necessity, an act of self-preservation. They were given the parameters for their survival, HFY finally stated, her voice imbued with a somber authority. They were permitted to retain their home system, Sol, and the immediate surrounding 5 stellar bodies, provided they ceased all outward expansion, all interstellar travel, and all communication beyond their designated space. Any deviation was to be met with immediate and decisive enforcement. We offered them the choice: integrate and conform or be isolated. They chose isolation, albeit under duress. We supplied them with a limited resource allowance, enough for sustaining their population within their confined territories and nothing more. We believed this would be sufficient to prevent any resurgence of their aggressive tendencies. She paused, the weight of her words hanging heavy in the chamber. Clearly, our understanding of their tendencies was profoundly incomplete. Xylos lowered his head, his crystalline plates dimming. They made no attempts at contact, no distress signals, no pleas for reintegration. We monitored their internal communications for signs of rebellion, dissent, or desperation. There was nothing. Only a continuous, baffling silence, occasionally punctuated by complex, encrypted data bursts of unknown content. We assumed they were simply enduring, surviving within the strictures we imposed. Now it appears they were doing something far more ambitious. The high delegate of the grill, a species whose sensory organs were highly attuned to subtle energetic fluctuations, shuddered visibly. Its multi-jointed limbs tightened around its staff. The silence was the most unsettling aspect, was it not? A species with their historical proclivity for discourse, for exploration, for argument. To simply accept their fate without a single protest, without a single attempt to subvert the interdiction. It was always an incongruity. We interpreted it as resignation. Perhaps it was focus. The grill's voice dropped to a near whisper, a sound of primordial unease. Focus on something truly monumental, something that demanded absolute secrecy, absolute dedication. We must dispatch a probe, a full-spectrum analysis vessel, Xylos urged, his fear overriding diplomatic protocol. We need to understand what this structure is, what its purpose is, what capabilities it possesses. We cannot simply allow this anomaly to expand unchecked. HFY's gaze swept across the chamber, meeting the varied expressions of apprehension, confusion, and growing alarm. A probe would be a violation of the interdiction, a direct engagement with their space. It could be interpreted as an act of aggression, even if our intentions are purely informational. And what if this structure is an act of aggression? The Cathar delegate hissed, its head darting forward. What if this is a prelude to an assault, a declaration of war on the very federated systems that sought to contain them? Their history is replete with examples of audacious, often self-destructive, strategic gambits. We must consider all possibilities, however improbable. The Synthesian delegate projected another set of data, this time a speculative holographic rendering of the expanding structure, based on the observed energy signatures and spatial distortions. It depicted a colossal, intricate network of interconnected constructs, impossibly vast, surrounding their original Solarian systems like a colossal, crystalline shell. It pulsed with an internal light, an artificial sun at its core, but one that seemed to defy the natural laws of stellar evolution. The energy output is consistent with a Dyson sphere variant, but one of such an unprecedented scale and complexity that it dwarfs any theoretical model. It is not merely harnessing the energy of a star, it is creating its own internal cosmos, and it is entirely contained within the interdiction zone, precisely within the boundaries we allotted them. A chilling silence descended upon the chamber, broken only by the rhythmic hum of the energy conduits. The implication was stark, undeniable. They had not merely survived their banishment, they had transformed it. They had taken the empty, resource-depleted void assigned to them, and with an ingenuity that bordered on the divine, forged a new reality within it. They had been forbidden from expanding into the galaxy, so they had built their own. HFY finally spoke, her voice calm, yet imbued with a newfound gravity. We must engage them, not with probes, not with covert surveillance, but with direct diplomatic contact. We must ascertain their intentions, understand the nature of this new empire. The Federated Systems will send a single, unarmed diplomatic vessel. I will lead the delegation myself. It is imperative that we project an image of measured diplomacy, not fear-driven aggression. For if they have indeed constructed what these readings suggest, then the power they wield, even if contained, is a force that demands a new level of respect and a profound reevaluation of our past assumptions. The air in the chamber crackled with a different kind of tension now, a blend of apprehension and a reluctant, dawning awe. The humans, once dismissed as an unruly, dangerous child, had returned to the galactic stage, not with a plea for readmittance, but with an entirely new stage of their own creation. The game had irrevocably changed. The diplomatic vessel, a sleek, unarmed Chronosian starship named the Harmonious Accord, glided through the void towards the interdiction zone. Inside, Elder Delegate HFY stood by the primary viewport, her ancient eyes fixed on the distant, shimmering anomaly. It was no longer a mere energy signature on a screen. It was a visible presence, a colossal, geometric construct, impossibly vast, refracting the light of distant stars in a manner that defied comprehension. It pulsed with a soft, internal luminescence like a trapped nebula, yet its edges were sharp, defined, unmistakably artificial. The sheer scale of it was breathtaking, overwhelming the sensor readings, confounding the navigators. They had been granted passage after a single, concise communication burst from the human construct, not a system, but a network of systems. A voice devoid of emotional inflection, yet impeccably polite, almost chilling in its precision. This is the designated entry vector for the Federated Systems, Diplomatic Vessel Harmonious Accord, the synthesized voice had stated without preamble. Your passage is permitted. Maintain designated course and velocity. Any deviation will be interpreted as an aggressive maneuver. Welcome to the Solarian Enclave. The Solarian Enclave. Not a commonwealth, not a federation, but an enclave. A self-contained entity. A deliberate, defiant act of redefinition. Delegate Xylos stood beside HFY, his crystalline carapace flickering with nervous energy. Their efficiency is unsettling. No negotiation, no posturing, just direct instruction. It is as if they anticipated our arrival, our every move. Perhaps they did, HFY mused, her voice a low hum. Their strategic processing capabilities, even in our limited encounters, always seem to operate on multiple temporal axes. They often surprised us with unforeseen contingencies. We underestimated their capacity for long-term planning, for sustained, focused endeavor. As the Harmonious Accord drew closer, the colossal construct resolved into astonishing detail. It was not a single, continuous surface, but a dizzying array of interconnected megastructures, each one a universe unto itself, yet all seamlessly integrated into a single, breathtaking whole. Entire star systems were enclosed within shimmering, transparent spheres, their internal light filtered and redirected to power even vaster, more intricate networks of habitation and industry. Worlds of every conceivable type, from lush biospheres to vast computational arrays, were suspended within this artificial cosmos, all held in perfect, synchronized orbit around a central, artificially generated stellar core. It was a masterpiece of engineering, a testament to an ambition that transcended the natural order of the galaxy. It was an empire, forged from nothing, within the very space they had been denied. A single, human-designed craft, sleek and minimalist, detached itself from the colossal structure and approached the Harmonious Accord. It was unarmed, a gesture of peace, but its very presence, gliding silently through the void, exuded an understated power. Its design spoke of purpose, efficiency, and an understanding of physics that bordered on the arcane. Greetings, Federated Systems. A calm, resonant voice emanated directly into the Harmonious Accord's B. Ridge, it was the same synthesized voice from before, yet now imbued with a subtle, almost imperceptible warmth. I am Envoy Representative Anya Sharma of the Solarian Enclave. I will be your escort. Please prepare for docking at the designated diplomatic station. We appreciate your adherence to our protocols. HFY felt a strange surge of emotion, a blend of trepidation, profound curiosity, and a reluctant, undeniable respect. These were the humans, the species they had deemed too unpredictable, too dangerous for the galactic community. And in their imposed isolation, they had not merely survived. They had flourished in a manner no other species had ever dared to conceive. The docking procedure was flawless, executed with a precision that bordered on the surgical. The diplomatic station itself was a marvel of minimalist design, gleaming with polished alloys and soft, diffused lighting. The air within was carefully conditioned, scentless, perfectly temperate. Envoy Sharma awaited them at the egress ramp, a human female of average height, clad in a simple, elegant uniform of deep azure. Her expression was neutral, polite, yet her eyes, a deep, intelligent brown, held an unnerving clarity, a gaze that seemed to miss nothing. "Welcome to the Solarian Enclave, Elder Delegate HFY, Delegates Xylos and Cathar," Envoy Sharma stated, her voice calm and even. Her knowledge of their names and species without prior introduction was another small, unsettling detail. "It is an honor to receive the representatives of the Federated Systems. Please follow me. Our council awaits your presence." HFY inclined her massive head. "Envoy Sharma, the honor is ours. Your creation is truly astounding. We confess it has exceeded all our expectations." A faint, almost imperceptible shift in the envoy's expression, a slight tightening around the eyes, was the only indication that HFY's words had registered beyond a purely diplomatic level. "The Federated Systems deemed our previous form of expansion incompatible with galactic harmony. We merely adapted. We sought a solution that would allow for our continued growth and self-determination, without infringing upon the established territories or principles of other species." There was no challenge in her voice, no bitterness, only a simple, undeniable statement of fact. The walk through the diplomatic station was brief, yet deeply revealing. The architecture was functional, elegant, devoid of extraneous ornamentation. The few human personnel they encountered were similarly efficient, moving with an unhurried sense of purpose. There was no visible tension, no frantic activity, only a pervasive atmosphere of quiet competence. This was not a society struggling under interdiction. This was a civilization at the zenith of its power, confident in its self-sufficiency. They were led into a spacious, circular chamber. The walls were holographic displays, cycling through breathtaking views of the enclave's internal systems. Verdant agricultural worlds bathed in artificial sunlight, colossal shipyards constructing vessels of unknown purpose, vast data fortresses shimmering with computational energy. In the center of the chamber, arranged in a semicircle, were 5 humans. Their attire was similar to Envoy Sharma's, simple and functional, yet each radiated an aura of profound intellect and unwavering composure. This was the Solarian Enclave's ruling council. The central figure, a human male with silvered hair and eyes that held the depth of ancient stars, rose as they entered. "Elder Delegate HFY, Delegates Xylos and Cathar," he began, his voice deep and measured, resonating with quiet authority. "I am Chancellor Aris Thorn, head of the Solarian Enclave Council. We welcome you. Please be seated." He gestured to elegant, ergonomically designed seats that automatically adjusted to their respective physiologies. HFY settled onto her cushion, her ancient senses absorbing every detail of the chamber, every subtle nuance of the human's demeanor. "Chancellor Thorn, we thank you for receiving us. The Federated System sends its greetings and its profound inquiries. Your enclave is a singular achievement. We confess to a certain degree of astonishment." Chancellor Thorn inclined his head. "We understand your astonishment, Elder Delegate. The circumstances of our departure from the galactic community were definitive. We were interdicted, isolated. Our species, however, possesses an inherent drive for progress, for self-improvement, for the pursuit of knowledge. To cease these endeavors would be to cease being human. We chose instead to redirect our energies, to channel our capabilities inward, to create an environment where our potential could be fully realized without external conflict." "The scale of this undertaking," Xylos interjected, his voice still tinged with wonder, "it defies conventional understanding. The resources required, the technology to construct an artificial cosmos of this magnitude, it is unparalleled." Another council member, a human female with sharp, intelligent features, spoke next. "The resources were, initially, a significant challenge. However, the void you designated for us, while ostensibly barren, contained latent energy fields and nascent stellar dust clouds. Through innovative quantum harvesting techniques and advanced matter transmutation, we were able to synthesize the necessary raw materials. As for the technology, 3 cycles of focused, uninterrupted research and development, free from external political interference or resource competition, allowed for significant breakthroughs in graviton manipulation, exotic matter fabrication, and spatio-temporal engineering. The limitations imposed upon us by the interdiction, in an ironic twist, became the crucible for our greatest advancements. Our HFY processed this information, her internal algorithms whirring. The limitations became the crucible, a profound statement revealing a mindset entirely alien to the resource-conservative, externally focused species of the federated systems. Humans did not seek to expand outward, they built their own inward expansion. The Cathar delegate clicked its mandibles, a sound of mild agitation. This internal cosmos, it is expanding. Our sensors detect its growth. What are its ultimate parameters? What is its intended size? And what is its purpose beyond mere habitation? Chancellor Thorne's gaze met the Cathar delegate's, unwavering. Its ultimate size will be determined by the collective needs of the human species. Its current expansion rate is entirely within the parameters of our resource generation and structural integrity. As for its purpose, it serves multiple functions. Primarily, it is a self-sustaining habitat, capable of supporting a thriving population indefinitely. Secondly, it is a vast, interconnected research and development complex dedicated to understanding the fundamental laws of the universe and pushing the boundaries of scientific knowledge. Thirdly, it is a sanctuary, a secure haven for human civilization, free from external threats or interference. We learned the lessons of the past. We chose self-reliance. But this self-reliance, HFY observed, her voice careful, it represents a formidable concentration of power. Such capability, even contained, could be perceived as a threat. The federated systems imposed the interdiction precisely to mitigate perceived threats of human volatility. A third council member, a human of imposing stature, leaned forward. Volatility, elder delegate, is often a byproduct of insecurity, of competition, of external pressures that force difficult choices upon a species. Within the enclave, we have eliminated those pressures. Our resources are limitless, generated internally. Our population is stable, carefully managed. Our governance is based on consensus and long-term strategic planning. We have achieved a societal equilibrium that was simply not possible within the fragmented, competitive environment of the greater galaxy. We have no desire to interfere with the federated systems, nor to expand beyond our designated, self-created boundaries. We simply wish to exist, to explore the boundless potential of our own capabilities, in peace. Peace? Xylos questioned, a note of skepticism in his voice. You constructed what amounts to a superweapon, a celestial body capable of disrupting entire sectors of space, and you claim peace. Chancellor Thorne smiled, a faint, almost imperceptible upturn of the lips that held no mirth, only a quiet understanding. A superweapon, Delegate Xylos, is a tool. Its purpose is defined by its wielder. This enclave is not designed for aggression. It is designed for defense, for self-preservation. It is a monument to our enduring will to survive, to thrive, and to learn. We have no need for conquest, no desire for external resources. We have transcended those primitive drives. Our conflicts are now internal, philosophical, intellectual. We challenge ourselves, not others. Our HFY felt a profound shift within her ancient consciousness. The humans had not merely endured, they had transcended the very reasons for their banishment. They had taken the limitations imposed upon them and transformed them into the foundation of something far grander, far more profound than any galactic empire could ever hope to be. They had been deemed incompatible with the existing galaxy, so they had built their own. We came here with many questions, Chancellor, HFY stated, her voice softer now, less formal. But now I find myself with a single, overwhelming thought. We banished you for fear of your potential, and in doing so we unwittingly pushed you to realize it in a manner that now dwarfs our collective achievements. We sought to limit you, and you became limitless within your own creation. What, then, is our role now in the face of this new reality you have forged? See? Chancellor Thorne held her gaze, his expression unreadable, yet radiating a profound, quiet strength. Your role, Elder Delegate, is to observe, to understand, to determine if the galaxy you sought to protect is still the same galaxy, now that a new cosmos has been born within its shadows. We have no demands, no ultimatums. We simply exist. The choice of how the Federated Systems interacts with the Solarian Enclave, that choice now belongs entirely to you. The silence that followed was not merely an absence of sound, but a chasm opening in the fabric of galactic history, a moment of profound reevaluation. The Federated Systems had banished a species, believing they had contained a threat. They had merely ignited a new star. The return journey to the Federated Systems was fraught with a contemplative silence that was heavier than any debate. The delegates aboard the Harmonious Accord carried the weight of an epochal shift in galactic power dynamics. HFY, in particular, remained absorbed in a deep, internal process of reevaluation, her ancient mind sifting through millennia of accumulated wisdom, attempting to reconcile it with the utterly unprecedented reality of the Solarian Enclave. The humans, once a mere blip on the galactic radar, then an anomaly, then a threat, were now something else entirely, something new. The report to the Grand Conclave Chamber was delivered not by Xylos, nor by the Cathar delegate, but by HFY herself. Her voice, usually slow and measured, now carried an urgency, a quiet power that commanded absolute attention. The projected image in the chamber was no longer a speculative rendering, but the actual awe-inspiring vista of the Solarian Enclave, meticulously captured by the Harmonious Accord's advanced sensors. It pulsed with a contained energy, a jewel-like construct against the vast, empty canvas of the void. The humans, HFY began, her voice reverberating through the hushed chamber, did not merely survive their interdiction. They redefined it. They transformed the very concept of banishment into a catalyst for self-creation. They were denied access to the galaxy, so they built their own. A self-contained, self-sufficient, and self-governing cosmos, entirely within the parameters we established. They have not violated the letter of the interdiction, but they have profoundly transcended its spirit. A ripple of murmurs spread through the delegates. Xylos, standing beside HFY, added his own observations, his crystalline carapace now glowing with an almost reverent light. Their technological advancements are staggering. What they have achieved in 3 cycles, graviton manipulation on a cosmic scale, matter transmutation for unlimited resource generation, spatio-temporal engineering for internal stability. These are capabilities that the Federated Systems has only hypothesized for millennia. They have leapfrogged entire eras of technological development, not through aggression or conquest, but through intense, focused internal research. The Cathar delegate, usually a proponent of caution and skepticism, now spoke with a rare tremor of awe in its sibilant whispers. Their society, it is one of profound equilibrium. The internal displays we witnessed depicted populations thriving, not merely subsisting. Their governance, as described by Chancellor Thorne, is a model of long-term strategic consensus. They have eliminated the internal conflicts, the resource scarcity, the external pressures that defined their earlier history. They have cultivated a society of purpose, of shared ambition, unburdened by the historical conflicts that plague so many developing species. They possess no desire for expansion into the galaxy, no intent for retaliation, no need for our resources, HFY continued, her gaze sweeping across the stunned faces of the delegates. They have achieved a state of absolute self-reliance. They claim to wish only to exist, to explore their own potential within the boundaries of their self-created cosmos. And the truth of their assertion, it is undeniable when one witnesses the magnitude of their achievement. Then what are we to do? Demanded a delegate from a species that had been particularly vocal in supporting the original interdiction. Do we simply accept this new reality? Do we ignore the power they now wield, a power that could, if unleashed, destabilize the entire Federated Systems? We must first understand, HFY replied, her voice firm. We banished them out of fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of their volatility, fear of their potential disruption to our established order. And in doing so, we created the conditions for that potential to be realized in a manner far beyond our initial comprehension. The humans are no longer a threat of aggression. They are a threat of irrelevance. If we continue to view them through the lens of fear and suspicion, we risk being left behind, strategically, technologically, philosophically. A wave of intense debate erupted, louder, more fervent than any since the original interdiction itself. Arguments raged over the implications of human technological superiority, the moral culpability of the Federated Systems for their banishment, and the strategic necessities of either engagement or continued isolation. But underlying all the fear and political maneuvering was a pervasive sense of awe, a grudging respect for the sheer audacity of the human endeavor. During the ensuing cycles of debate, a new proposal slowly gained traction, championed by HFY and supported by a growing number of delegates who had come to grasp the profound implications of the human enclave. It was not a proposal for reintegration, nor for continued isolation, but for a measured, cautious re-engagement. An exchange of knowledge, a cautious observation, a re-establishment of communication on terms dictated by the new reality. Just as a tentative consensus began to form within the conclave, a new, unforeseen event occurred. A series of deep space sensor arrays, positioned far beyond the known borders of the federated systems, suddenly detected a series of anomalous energy signatures. These were not the familiar signatures of known species, nor were they the emergent properties of natural cosmic phenomena. They were ancient, powerful, and utterly alien, emanating from beyond the perceived edge of the galaxy, from a region long considered quiescent, devoid of intelligent life. The Synthesian delegate, its metallic skin shimmering with alarm, projected the raw data onto the central void. The signatures were complex, rhythmic, structured, unmistakably artificial, yet unlike anything ever catalogued by federated systems science. These readings, they indicate the presence of something truly ancient, a technology beyond our understanding. The energy output is enormous, sustained, and highly organized. It is approaching. Panic, cold and visceral, began to spread through the chamber. Millennia of peace and cautious expansion had lulled the federated systems into a sense of security. The greatest threats had always been internal or from known, contained rivalries. But this was an unknown. An existential dread began to creep in, chilling the very core of their being. HFY, however, remained calm. Her ancient eyes, reflecting the ominous projections, held a newfound certainty. These signatures, they are not a localized phenomenon. They indicate a force, a civilization of unimaginable age and power. We have no prior data, no historical record of such an entity. Our collective defenses, our combined knowledge, may be insufficient to contend with it. She paused, then slowly turned to face the council. We banish the humans for their perceived volatility, for their unpredictable nature. We underestimated their adaptability, their capacity for radical innovation. Perhaps, in this unforeseen crisis, their unique perspective, their singular drive, may be the very thing we now need. The High Delegate of the Cathar, usually fiercely independent, now looked at HFY with an expression of profound vulnerability. You suggest we seek their aid, the species we deemed too dangerous to exist within our systems. HFY nodded, her gaze firm. We need to understand this new threat, and the humans in their isolation, in their forced introspection, have likely achieved breakthroughs in physics, in energy manipulation, in strategic thought that could be invaluable. They built an empire from nothing. They found solutions where we saw only impasses. They redefined the possible. We must present them with the evidence of this new threat, and humbly request their insight, their assistance, not as supplicants, but as a united galactic community facing an existential challenge. The argument that followed was brief, punctuated by the growing fear evident in the approaching alien signatures. The previous debates about the humans suddenly seemed trivial, overshadowed by the cold, encroaching shadow from beyond the galactic edge. The federated systems, for the first time in millennia, truly feared for its collective existence. A single, urgent communication was dispatched to the Solarian enclave, bypassing all previous protocols, all diplomatic niceties. It was a raw, unvarnished plea for assistance, accompanied by the full spectrum of data regarding the ancient, approaching threat. The response from the enclave was immediate and again, chillingly concise. We have received your distress signal, federated systems. We have analyzed the incoming data. The threat is indeed existential. We have observed its approach for some time, albeit from a different interpretive framework. We will dispatch a diplomatic and scientific delegation to your grand conclave chamber. We require full, unrestricted access to your data archives, your strategic assessments, and your scientific research. Be prepared to receive us within 8 standard hours. We will ALS. Transmit a preliminary analysis of the incoming entity's nature, based on our own proprietary observations. Be advised, the scale of this entity surpasses even our own current understanding of cosmic forces. The finality of the human message, the understated power, the implied knowledge that they had been observing this unknown threat long before the federated systems, sent a fresh wave of awe and apprehension through the conclave. They had sought to contain humanity, to protect the galaxy from them. Now it seemed humanity had been quietly observing the galaxy, protecting it from something far grander, far more terrifying all along. The ultimate paradox. The species banished for being a threat now held the key to survival against a threat that transcended all prior understanding. The universe, it seemed, had a grander design, a more intricate web of cause and effect than the federated systems had ever dared to imagine. The atmosphere within the Grand Conclave chamber had transmuted from one of tense political debate to a shared, palpable anxiety. The holographic projections now displayed two distinct, ominous representations. The Solarian Enclave, a testament to human ingenuity, pulsing with contained power, and contrasting sharply a new, far more terrifying image, the raw, unfiltered sensor data of the approaching cosmic entity. It was not a single vessel, nor a fleet, but a vast, amorphous construct, seemingly alive, yet utterly alien in its composition. It distorted space-time around it, its presence heralded by ripples of energy that seemed to consume the very light of distant stars. Its scale was truly immense, dwarfing even the largest known megastructures of the federated systems. 8 standard hours later, as promised, a single human vessel, distinct from the sleek diplomatic escort, materialized within the Grand Conclave's designated receiving dock. Its design was unlike any starship the federated systems had ever encountered, not built for speed, nor for raw combat, but for something far more complex. It was an amalgamation of dark, absorbing materials and shimmering, crystalline conduits, a vessel that seemed to exist on the edge of dimensional reality. Its silence was absolute, its presence radiating an unquantifiable power. From this vessel emerged not a diplomatic envoy, but 3 figures, their expressions grave, their attire utilitarian, almost stark. The central figure was a human female, her dark hair pulled back severely, her eyes, though calm, holding an intense, almost sorrowful depth. She was flanked by 2 other humans, equally serious, carrying data modules that glowed with intricate schematics. This was not a delegation seeking an audience. This was a team arriving to execute a critical function. Chancellor Thorne, his voice now devoid of its previous measured diplomacy, cut through the initial greetings. Elder Delegate HFY, delegates of the Federated Systems, allow me to introduce Dr. Evelyn Reed, lead Xeno Studies and Theoretical Physics Specialist, accompanied by Chief Engineer Jayan Lee and Strategic Analyst Maya Singh. They represent the Solarian Enclave's direct response to your distress signal regarding the Great Veil Anomaly. Dr. Reed's very use of the term Great Veil Anomaly, a designation entirely new to the federated systems, suggested a level of prior knowledge that was deeply unsettling. Dr. Reed stepped forward, her gaze sweeping across the stunned faces of the assembled delegates. Her voice, though calm, carried a quiet intensity that commanded immediate attention. We appreciate your swift transmission of data, federated systems. Our preliminary analysis, derived from our own long-range observatories within the enclave, confirms your readings. The entity you refer to as an unknown threat is indeed that, but its nature is far more fundamental than a mere civilization seeking expansion or conflict. It is a cosmic harvester, an entity that exists to consume the very fabric of space-time, converting stellar energy into a form that sustains its own existence. We refer to it as the chronovore anomaly, or more colloquially, the veil. A collective gasp swept through the chamber. A cosmic harvester. The sheer scale of such a concept was terrifying. The federated systems had always believed in the natural order of the universe, in the cycles of creation and destruction, but always within the bounds of a fundamental stability. This veil threatened that very stability. It has been observing your galaxy for eons, Dr. Reed continued, her voice unwavering. Its method of detection involves subtle shifts in gravitational fields and exotic matter resonances, which our own advanced sensors within the enclave, developed during our interdiction, were able to detect and interpret. Your galaxy, being rich in young, active stellar nurseries, has only recently reached a critical mass of energetic output that makes it a viable target for the Veil's sustenance Clee. Chief Engineer Lee stepped forward, projecting a complex, rapidly evolving simulation onto the main display. It showed the Veil's approach, its amorphous form slowly engulfing entire star systems, extinguishing their light, leaving behind only dead, gravitationally distorted remnants. The Veil operates on principles of quantum entanglement and localized temporal manipulation. It is not attacking in a conventional sense, it is simply feeding. Its technologies are an organic extension of its very being, designed for efficient consumption. Conventional weaponry, even our most potent energy projectors, would be akin to throwing pebbles at a collapsing star. It would simply absorb the energy, integrate it, and continue its consumption. The delegates stared at the simulation in horrified silence. Their greatest fleets, their most formidable defenses, were utterly useless. They were facing an entity that consumed entire solar systems as fuel, a creature of cosmic hunger. "Then what hope do we have?" Xylos finally managed to stammer, his crystalline plates dimming to a dull gray. "If we cannot fight it, if it cannot be reasoned with, is this the end?" Dr. Reed's gaze settled on Xylos, a flicker of something akin to pity in her eyes. "There is always hope, delegate, but hope requires a reevaluation of assumptions and a willingness to transcend conventional thought. The veil exists outside of our conventional understanding of physics. To defeat it, we must do the same. This is where the Solarian Enclave's unique insights come into play." Strategic analyst Maya Singh then projected another set of data, a series of incredibly complex mathematical equations and theoretical constructs. "During our period of isolation, within the secure environment of the Enclave, we were able to dedicate vast computational resources and intellectual capital to exploring theoretical physics beyond the practical constraints of immediate application. We delved into hyperspatial mechanics, exotic matter properties, and the very nature of cosmic constants. Our isolation allowed us to pursue impractical research, free from the demands of galactic politics or resource allocation. One such avenue of research involved the creation of localized, controlled temporal distortions, not for time travel as commonly envisioned, but for phase-shifting matter and energy into alternate spatio-temporal layers. Our HFY's ancient mind struggled to grasp the implications. Alternate spatio-temporal layers. It was a concept so advanced, so radical, it bordered on metaphysics. The veil in its consumption exists simultaneously across multiple temporal nodes within its localized sphere of influence, Dr. Reed elaborated. It is not a static entity. It is a flowing river of energy and matter, constantly shifting, constantly consuming. Our analysis indicates that its fundamental existence is tied to specific spatio-temporal harmonics. If we can disrupt those harmonics, even momentarily, we can force a localized collapse of its energy matrix, effectively creating a famine within its feeding cycle. Chief Engineer Lee took over, projecting a highly detailed schematic of a new type of human vessel, one even more complex than the transport they had arrived in. It was massive, adorned with multiple intricate arrays of shimmering dark matter conduits. "We have developed a system we call the temporal resonator array. It is designed to generate highly focused, inverse phase temporal harmonics. The plan is not to attack the veil, but to induce a localized spatio-temporal inversion field within its core energetic matrix. This would, effectively, cause a cascading failure of its consumption cycle, forcing it to withdraw, or at least to significantly slow its approach." "But this, a localized temporal inversion," Xylos stammered. "That is inherently unstable. It could have catastrophic consequences for our own reality." "Precisely," Dr. Reed acknowledged, her expression grim. "The risks are immense. The computational power required to maintain such an inversion field, even momentarily, is staggering, and the precision required to target the veil's core harmonics without destabilizing the surrounding space is beyond anything ever attempted. However, our Enclave's internal network, our entire artificial cosmos, is a vast, interconnected computational engine. We have the processing power. We have the scientific understanding, and we have the will." Chancellor Thorne stepped forward, his voice cutting through the stunned silence. "This is the plan we propose, Federated Systems. It is risky, it is audacious, but it is the only viable path we have identified to contend with an entity of this nature. We will deploy a fleet of specialized vessels, equipped with temporal resonator arrays, and activate a synchronized, galaxy-wide network of hyperspatial emitters, leveraging the full computational capacity of the Solarian Enclave. We will create a temporal famine within the veil, forcing its retreat." "And what do you require of us?" HFY asked, her voice hushed, recognizing the unspoken implications of such a monumental undertaking. Dr. Reed met her gaze. "We require your full cooperation, Elder Delegate, your complete trust. We require unrestricted access to your entire sensor network, your astronomical charts, and your strategic planning data. We will also need to establish a secure, encrypted communication channel between our enclave and your command center. And most importantly, we require your absolute non-interference during the operation. Any deviation, any attempt to engage the veil with conventional means, could destabilize our temporal inversion field and result in catastrophic failure. The choice was stark. The Federated Systems, for millennia a proud, self-sufficient entity, was now utterly dependent on the species they had banished. Their very survival hinged on the audacious, near-mythical technology and the unwavering resolve of humanity. The fear of the veil was profound, but a new fear now stirred within the conclave, the fear of trusting a species they had once deemed too dangerous to coexist with. Yet the alternative was certain annihilation. HFY, her ancient form radiating a newfound resolve, slowly rose. Her gaze swept across the chamber, meeting the fearful, desperate eyes of the delegates. We have observed the humans for centuries, first with curiosity, then with apprehension, finally with fear. We sought to contain their potential. We were wrong. Their potential, it seems, was not a threat to be contained, but a solution to be embraced. We will give the Solarian Enclave what they ask. We will place our trust in them. For if their ingenuity could build a cosmos from nothing, perhaps it can also save a cosmos from everything. The decision was unanimous, born not of confidence, but of sheer, desperate necessity. The Grand Conclave, the proud beacon of galactic order, had surrendered its fate into the hands of the banished. The silence in the chamber was profound, a moment of profound humility and reluctant hope, as the shadow of the great veil anomaly loomed ever larger, and the humans, in their quiet competence, began to prepare for a cosmic battle unlike any seen in recorded history. The galaxy held its breath, its fate hanging in the balance, entrusted to the species they had once cast out. The Grand Conclave chamber transformed into the central command hub of the combined Federated Systems, defense. Holographic projections of the encroaching veil dominated the space, its amorphous mass growing steadily, relentlessly, consuming distant stars as it drew closer. Beside it, the Solarian Enclave pulsed with a quiet, focused energy, its internal systems now fully dedicated to the monumental task ahead. Human scientists and engineers, their movements precise and economical, interfaced directly with Federated Systems, technical teams, a rapid, almost symbiotic exchange of complex data flowing between species. The language barrier, once a point of diplomatic friction, dissolved under the urgency of the moment, replaced by universal mathematical constructs and the stark clarity of shared purpose. Dr. Reed, her face etched with exhaustion but her gaze unwavering, stood before a multi-species strategic board. The Veil's approach has accelerated slightly. We estimate primary engagement will commence within 36 standard hours. Our temporal resonator array ships are deploying to their designated coordinates within the interdiction zone, leveraging the unique gravitational properties of the Enclave's outer shell for optimal energy resonance. This will provide the necessary anchor for the temporal inversion field. Chief Engineer Lee presented a dynamic projection of the Enclave's internal systems. Our internal stellar core is being taxed to its absolute limits, drawing incredible power to feed the resonator arrays. The computational network, spanning millions of interconnected nodes across our artificial cosmos, is engaged in a continuous, real-time calculation of the Veil's spatio-temporal harmonics. Any fluctuation, any shift in its consumption pattern must be immediately accounted for, or our inversion field will fail. Strategic analyst Maya Singh added a chilling overlay to the projection. We have identified a primary vector of consumption. The Veil is targeting the densest concentrations of young, heavy-element stars. Its hunger is purely practical. It seeks the most efficient fuel sources. This unfortunately places several of your core Federated Systems, worlds, Elder Delegate HFY, directly in its path. HFY's ancient frame trembled, but her voice remained firm. We understand the stakes, Analyst Singh. We have initiated evacuation protocols for all non-essential personnel and critical data archives. Our fleets are positioned defensively, but without offensive capabilities. Their role is largely symbolic. We place our full in your methodology. The tension in the chamber was a living entity, thick and suffocating. The sheer audacity of the human plan, the razor's edge of its execution, seemed almost suicidal. To attempt to disrupt a cosmic entity on a fundamental spatio-temporal level, rather than through brute force, was a testament to a scientific courage that the Federated Systems, in its long history of cautious stability, had simply never possessed. As the final hours ticked away, a sense of grim determination settled over the human teams. There was no boasting, no grand pronouncements, only a focused, unwavering commitment to the task. They had been given a problem, an existential threat, and their training, their entire societal philosophy forged in isolation, had prepared them for precisely such a challenge. Then the moment arrived. Commencing activation of the temporal resonator arrays, Dr. Reed announced, her voice resonating with a newfound authority that belied her quiet demeanor. All Enclave systems are online, full power engagement. Chief Engineer Lee, confirm field stability. Field stability confirmed, Dr. Reed, Lee responded, his hands flying across a control panel, beads of sweat glistening on his brow. Gravitational flux within acceptable parameters, temporal resonance phase-locked. On the central projection, the Solarian enclave began to shimmer, not with light, but with an almost imperceptible distortion of space itself. Ripples of exotic energy radiated outward from its colossal form, converging on the advancing veil. It was not an explosion, not a brilliant flash, but a silent, overwhelming force. The veil, for the first time, reacted. Its amorphous mass began to writhe, its tendrils of darkness coiling back upon themselves. The cosmic hunger that had propelled it for eons seemed to falter, to stutter. The stars it had targeted, momentarily dimmed by its presence, began to reassert their light, a fragile flicker of defiance against the encroaching darkness. "It's working," Maya Singh breathed, her voice filled with a desperate hope. "The temporal inversion field is disrupting its internal energy matrix. It's starving it of sustenance." But the veil was ancient, resilient. It responded with a surge of its own, an almost conscious effort to reassert its feeding cycle. Energy readings spiked, threatening to overwhelm the human arrays. The gravitational stresses on the enclave's outer shell intensified, threatening structural collapse. Alarms blared across the combined command center. "Energy fluctuation detected," a Synthesian delegate cried, its metallic skin flashing red. "The veil is attempting to counteract the inversion. We are losing temporal lock." Dr. Reed's voice, though strained, cut through the alarm. "Hold the line, Enclave. Push more power. Lee, divert auxiliary graviton emitters to reinforce structural integrity. Singh, recalibrate harmonic frequency by 0.007 picoseconds. We need absolute precision." The humans, in that moment of supreme crisis, became a singular, unified entity. Their focus was absolute, their movements synchronous, their commands concise and unwavering. They were not merely fighting for their own survival, but for the very existence of a galaxy that had once cast them out. Their inherent drive, once deemed a flaw, was now their greatest strength. The Solarian enclave, a testament to human will, groaned under the immense strain. Its internal stars flared, then dimmed, as energy was diverted to the resonator arrays. The very fabric of their self-created cosmos was being pushed to its breaking point. "Temporal lock re-established," Lee shouted, his voice hoarse but triumphant. "Field integrity stabilizing, the veil is retreating." On the projection, the colossal, amorphous form of the veil began to shrink, to recoil. Its tendrils of darkness evaporated, its light-consuming aura diminishing. It did not explode, did not shatter, but simply withdrew. Its consumption cycle broken, its energy source disrupted, it fled, retreating into the intergalactic void, a cosmic predator forced to abandon its prey. The immediate threat was averted. A profound, exhausted silence descended upon the chamber. Then, a slow, sustained wave of relief washed over the delegates. HFY, her ancient eyes fixed on the retreating shadow of the veil, felt an overwhelming surge of emotion. They had been saved by the humans. Dr. Reed, utterly drained, leaned against a console, her shoulders slumping. "The immediate threat is neutralized. The veil has retreated beyond detection range. It will take it millennia to recover its energy reserves if it ever returns to this galaxy." The temporal inversion field created a critical energy deficit within its core. It is, for all intents and purposes, banished. Banished, the irony was not lost on anyone. The species that had been banished from the galaxy had, in turn, banished a cosmic predator from the galaxy. HFY slowly approached Dr. Reed, her express. Ion one of profound gratitude and humility. "Dr. Reed, Chancellor Thorne, all of humanity, we owe you a debt that can never be repaid. You saved us, all of us. We who once deemed you a threat who cast you out, you returned our trust with unconditional salvation." Dr. Reed managed a small, weary smile. We are all inhabitants of this cosmos, elder delegate. When an existential threat emerges, the divisions between us become meaningless. We merely did what was necessary. Our isolation, our struggle, simply equipped us with the tools to do so. The aftermath was a period of intense reflection and unprecedented cooperation. The federated systems, humbled and profoundly changed, dismantled the interdiction zone, offering the Solarian enclave full reintegration into the galactic community. But the humans, with a quiet dignity, declined. "Our enclave is our home," Chancellor Thorne communicated from within their self-created cosmos. "Our path of internal development has proven fruitful, and we see no reason to abandon it. We will, however, open formal diplomatic channels, establish robust trade agreements, and offer our scientific and technological assistance to the federated systems in times of need. We are no longer isolated, but we are also no longer seeking to merge. We are simply allies, partners, neighbors." This unexpected decision, yet another testament to human self-determination, solidified a new era of galactic relations. The humans had been banned from the galaxy, so they had made their own empire, an empire of knowledge, of self-sufficiency, of audacious scientific endeavor. And in doing so, they had not only saved the galaxy, but they had also redefined its very future. Then the final, greater twist. Months after the Veil's retreat, as the federated systems cautiously began to rebuild and reevaluate its place in the changed cosmos, a new anomaly was detected. Not an approaching threat, but a faint, persistent signal emanating from a region of deep intergalactic space, far beyond the reach of any known civilization. It was weak, almost imperceptible, yet incredibly ancient, carrying echoes of technologies that dwarfed even the Solarian enclave's achievements. The signal was not a distress call nor a declaration. It was a fragment of a complex interwoven data stream, a cosmic message, repeating on an endless loop. The federated system's best decryption specialists, even with human assistance, could only decipher fleeting glimpses of its content. But what they did decipher sent a fresh wave of awe and a profound, terrifying hope through the galactic community. The message spoke of other galaxies, of other veils, of an ancient network of cosmic guardians, entities far older than time itself, dedicated to safeguarding the fragile emergence of intelligent life against the primordial forces of universal consumption. And within this message, within the very fabric of its ancient code, was a map. Not a map of stars, but a map of potential pathways, of nascent, unformed dimensions, hinting at a reality far grander, far more complex than any known universe. It was a cosmic invitation, a challenge to explore the true, boundless nature of existence. Dr. Reed, standing before the Grand Conclave one final time, her gaze distant, filled with a new, profound wonder, explained the implications. The Veil, it seems, was not an anomaly. It was a test, a filter. And we, the denizens of this galaxy, with the crucial intervention of the Solarian enclave, have passed. This signal, it is not a threat. It is a welcome. A doorway to a new frontier, a larger cosmos, a realm of possibilities that transcends even the wildest dreams of our combined civilizations. HFY, her ancient eyes shimmering with tears, looked from Dr. Reed to the projected map of cosmic pathways, then to the image of the Solarian enclave, radiant in its contained glory. We feared them. We feared their ambition, their drive, their capacity for the unknown. We banished them to the void, believing we had protected ourselves. But in that void they forged not just an empire, but a key. A key that has now unlocked a universe far grander, far more mysterious than any we could have ever imagined. They were banned from the galaxy, so they made their own. And in doing so, they showed us all that the true frontier was never merely out there in the stars, but always profoundly within. The silence that followed was not merely an absence of sound, but the echoing reverberation of an entirely new future, a future where humanity, once banished, stood at the precipice of cosmic exploration, not as conquerors, but as guides, leading a united galaxy into the true, boundless expanse of the unknown. The universe, it seemed, was only just beginning.